All right, let's get this started then. So thank you everyone for coming, especially since I know, sometimes the time isn't super convenient, but I appreciate everyone for coming. This will be recorded as well for people that aren't able to attend, at least assuming that everything works and
And
nothing
for quality
gets
assurance
broken.
purposes.
Right. So yeah, let's get this started. So first of all, we do have kind of like a few mini announcements that we just want to share with the community, and we'd rather kind of do it in a kind of close, small setting rather than just post it. Although we'll then post it to the rest of the community as well. But so we'll start with that. Then we'll move to some questions that people have been posting on the questions channel. And then we'll have an open mic as well, where everyone can just raise their hands. They come on stage and they can ask whatever you want, related to the sprawl or to the team, or whatever you want really. So let's get started. Paul, do you want to talk about the first announcement that we have?
Yeah, for sure. So we've got a new NFT mint coming up, job avatar NFT. So this will be actually occurring in April sometime. The specific date is yet to be announced. We'll have more details of that later. Do you want me to? Yeah.
That's perfect. Just that you stopped suddenly. I wasn't sure if my connection just went down or something. But yeah, that's perfect. So we will announce the more specific date very soon, but at least you'll know that it is in April. Robin, how about the supply?
Yes, so we can announce the supply as well. So the supply for the job avatar NFTs will be 3,400, 3,400. 2,200 of those will be reserved for current City Pass holders. You will be able to mint those for free if you hold a City Pass in a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have 10 City Passes, you can mint 10. And the remaining 1,200 will be reserved for a paid mint. And the mint price of that is yet to be announced. So stay tuned for more on the mint price.
Awesome. And then we're also going to have something exciting this year. Paul, what can you say about it?
Something interesting. So basically, one of the bits of utility for these job avatar NFTs will be you'll be able to interact with a metagame online. So with these job avatars, everybody will have a job. You'll have, you'll be one of the 12 different jobs in the game, and then we'll have a system online which simulates the kind of job aspect of the game. So you'll be able to use your NFT to actually take part in this multiplayer game, this simulation. This is not the 3D game. This is a different thing. This is more an economy sort of driven thing where we test out the whole job loop. We want players to be able to sort of interact within the system, so we can kind of test the system out and just play with it, basically. Because the game is not just about sort of driving around; it's also about how you interact in this kind of community in this system, and that's the kind of thing we want to try modeling first up. So your job avatar NFT will have utility in that system. And we're going to start quite small with this, and we'll see how it goes. It's something we want to definitely experiment with and push out further as we go. But essentially, with that job avatar, you'll be a citizen within the city of the system. So yeah.
Awesome, perfect, very exciting stuff, and I'm very, very curious about to see how that plays out. And obviously, even though the 3D world game is what we'll eventually develop, and obviously that's super fun on its own. I personally think that just the kind of the job economy in game theory of the jobs themselves and how that whole loop works is very interesting. So I think it's very exciting on its own right. So that's kind of like the main things that we wanted to announce. And so now we're just going to jump to some of the questions that the community has been asking. So Paul S. Young asks, what's the roadmap like for 2023?
Okay, so we've got some interesting stuff coming up on the web, as you just described. So metagames, the metagame sort of thing, and home sales are primary focuses for now. These are things we're looking at currently. The home sale will come later in the year, and that will give people a chance to sort of own property, own an apartment within the city. And in the meantime, we're going to play with this NFT utility.
Perfect.
I mean, there are other things going on, but those are our primary focus right now.
Right. And then S. Young again asks, and you can answer this one, Robin. Is there any new information about funding?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess just to kind of recap, so we are equity funded. We're a venture-backed studio, so we have top angel and institutional investors on board. Play Ventures, for instance, so they're backing us. With regards to future financing, we can't really share much more on that ahead of any official press announcements. But I think the key point to sort of drill here is that, you know, we're not community funded, we are venture funded. So our ability to finance the development of the Sprawl is not coming from the community or from NFT sales, it's coming from investors that believe in us. And like most VC-backed companies, we aim to continue down that path with subsequent rounds of funding, which unfortunately can be quite confidential until they're not. But when they're not, you'll hear more about them.
Awesome. Cellardor asks, are you planning to bring car brands into the game, Paul?
So, I mean, it's the game itself. It's not like a box product where there's like a single release date. It's games as a service. So, we expect to be developing this thing for many years. So that isn't something we're looking for an answer for right now. It's definitely something that we want to explore. So, I mean, the options are not just around cars, right? It's around any other things. It's the real world. So whatever kind of things we can find that are interesting partnership wise in terms of like bringing them into the game, we're open to. So car brands, you know, not right now, but absolutely potentially in the future.
All right. So, Robin, what chain will the game be on? This was asked by Dest. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. You have the question.
Thank you, Dest. If that's the correct pronunciation. We'll have an announcement soon on the chain for the job avatars. So we did the city passes on mainnet. With regards to the job avatars, we will have a specific announcement on the chain for those. In general, we're pretty chain agnostic in how we view the world. So it's unlikely that you will see us make a huge exclusive commitment to one specific chain for the project moving forwards. It's going to be always an ongoing assessment that sort of concerns a number of different internal and external factors. But there will be an announcement for the chain for the job avatars soon.
Okay. Now, a question for Paul, and this is from Tom Holder. In terms of dollar cars, the white paper says that you'll be able to get a vehicle in the job type of your choice, which means that you'll be able to pick the job type you want. So it will be chosen by the user and not randomly assigned. If that's the case, what will happen when many people choose the street racing car, for example, and there's not many firefighters? Will the jobs connected to the firefighting be worth more, or there will be some kind of balance between the two?
I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but you were cutting out there. But I know the gist of the question that you're saying.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
But Robin, did you hear my question okay?
I could actually. I could. So maybe it's just something that pulls in.
It's just his internet then. All right, then feel free to answer for it because the listeners have got it probably.
Go ahead, Paul.
So basically, I mean the game is open ended. Basically, we're never going to tell you what you can choose or not choose. If everybody wants to come in as a street racer, that's absolutely fine. Of course, the system it's systemic. It needs certain things to be done. So if everybody's driving around as a street racer, but all the garages are on fire, then you're not going to be able to repair your vehicles or buy upgrades for them or any other kind of stuff. So so it's really up to the community to decide how they want to manage that. The whole point is it's systemic, it's emergent, and players' communities can decide that kind of stuff for themselves. The dollar cars, they're really meant as a kind of a very light entry into the game. You're not going to be able to upgrade them. You're not going to be able to do some of the things you'll be able to do with like a full blown vehicle NFT. It's really, you know, a kind of a fairly disposable option in terms of the entire game system. But long story short, we're not gonna try and tell you what you can do. You can do whatever you want. The city itself needs certain things doing. There is a degree of what's the word? Basically, you don't want to just be doing one thing. You want to kind of like do more things because we're rewarding diversification. If you want to get the most out of it, if you want to earn the most kind of salary, there's going to be a cap on the number of jobs you can get that from every day, and there's going to be a cap on an individual job. So you can street race all you like, you can grind it, but if you're trying to optimize, you're going to want to do other jobs as well. And hopefully you'll be incentivized to do those other jobs because jobs create other jobs, create opportunities for other players. I mean, if everybody's street racing, then obviously there's a high demand for police. So as a policeman, you'll be able to sort of like make quite a lot of hay because the streets will be full of criminals. So that's the kind of thing where there's no balancing of the number of people that can do a job. It's a thing where the players decide.
Right. And then, oh my god, I won't even try to pronounce this username. But I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, thank you for the question. He asks, and Paul, you can answer this one. Will it be possible to have guns or shoot other players in the game?
Well, no. We're not putting guns in the game currently. The idea being, as soon as you put guns in the game, it becomes a shooty game, and that's really not what we're trying to create. We're trying to create a game about communities. So we don't want shooting particularly, but we do want interaction and we do want crime. We'll have theft in the game, so you'll be able to kind of steal resources from other players as they're driving them around. We don't want no conflict. We want some conflict, but we certainly want. We don't want to create a shooter. So crime, but not that crime.
Right, makes sense. Robin, Mika asks, is there an approximate date for the game's release?
Cool, thanks, Mika. So we're not giving a date at this time. So, you know, the Sprawl is an ambitious project. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. And I would recommend, when thinking about the release date, to look at ambitious game projects, to look at other game projects that are, you know, ambitious in their scope, rather than maybe other Web3 projects when calibrating, you know, expectations on timelines, etc. But also, it's worth noting we're not just building a, you know, premium $50 game in the dark that we then release and then it's done. We're building, as Paul mentioned, a service, an experience that will last for 10 plus years, that will be constantly, even when there's a full commercial version live, that will be receiving multiple updates, new stuff all the time. You know, the roadmap will just keep going on and on, ideally. And even prior to that commercial release, we're always going to be giving windows into that experience, you know, before. And, you know, that's the next window into that experience is the job avatars, and then the meta economy that Paul was talking about. So we don't really think in kind of binary terms, in terms of like it's unreleased and then it's released. We're always releasing things for people to interact with, and that give people a window into this world. And even when all of the stuff in the white paper is live and we have this full ecosystem for people to engage with, there will still be more stuff coming. So I hope that answers the question. Sorry if it's a little bit fluffy.
No, that was perfect. And Paul, oh man, Robin, you need to help me with these usernames. You're the pronouncing.
Otsutsuki_3.
Okay, perfect. His question is: I see
Found
that
talent.
GameFi is on the decline now. What is the path that you choose yourself? And I'm guessing he's asking just about kind of overall thoughts in the industry, and also how we're going to deal with the fact that it's not as popular as it was, for example, during the bull market. Paul.
Yeah, you could say GameFi is on the decline, and there are reasons for that, market conditions, generally speaking, and also, one or two of the kind of more speculative sort of ideas and projects kind of hitting the buffers. But that doesn't really change our central hypothesis. I mean, do we think that blockchain is going away? No, we do not. It was never part of our thesis to produce a Ponzi scheme or a speculative economy. We're trying to create a sustainable economy. So we don't see that it changes what we're doing. We want to use blockchain for real practical reasons. We're interested in ownership and we're interested in governance, and blockchain facilitates those things for us. So, I mean, it's not great that there's choppiness in the market, but we don't see that as affecting essentially what we're trying to achieve here. We think that the value of this still exists, and not just for us, but for lots of other companies as well. We think this is a very young sort of ecosystem that's evolving, and people will crack it. People will find ways into it, and they will provide real value for players. And ultimately, that's what we want to do too. We want to provide real value for players, not just as a kind of a get in, get out sort of thing, but get in, stay in sort of thing. We want this to be kind of a long-term thing. So we're not going to let sort of like short-term market conditions knock us off our mission in that regard.
Yeah, I guess just to elaborate on what you're saying, Paul, like it's value to people's lives beyond speculation as well, right? Is what we're looking to give.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, nailed it. Another question from the same person, Robin. Web3 games are difficult to reach users. How will we reach Web2 users and onboard them into Web3 and get them into this space?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's kind of nail on the head in terms of what the opportunity is, right? We're trying to build something that has mainstream appeal first and foremost. I don't think anyone has really done that yet. There's of course been some successful Web3 projects, and there's some great Web3 games as well. But I think when it comes to really trying to go broad with your audience, I think everyone's still trying to solve that. It's going to get easier. We're already seeing, from like a practical perspective, we're already seeing projects and solutions that tackle onboarding, whether it's through the wallet adoption, or it might just be through other creative ways, like our approach with the dollar cards, for instance, as a way to get people just into the experience that may not be fully up for the Web3 economy from the first from the word go. But yeah, ultimately, we're just looking to build an experience that's fun. We're not introducing blockchain for the sake of it. We're doing it because it makes concepts like player-driven ownership, governance, and economies way more compelling and interesting. And we feel that that will have a broad appeal.
Right. Awesome. And it's also worth mentioning that I've mentioned this in several spaces that you've made already, but a big hassle to the onboarding process is indeed the wallet, like Robin said. But like there has been some crazy development like in the last 3 to 6 months, and I'm very positive that literally by the end of this year that won't be an issue anymore. Like there's so many companies that are already working on it. And then from the blockchain side, there's also technological developments that will aid that even further. And so we will definitely make use of those tools. And by the time that this will be relevant for us, I'm very positive that we'll be able to have a very smooth onboarding process where people don't even they barely have to know what blockchain is. So obviously we're counting on those advancements as well, which will for sure happen.
And we're pretty strong on the business development side as well. So we have good relationships with everyone from other projects to other tech providers to middleware to the chains themselves. And that's why it might sound like, oh, we're super like open ended with some of the questions we give. But I think the key word really for us is we're agile and we have good relationships and we can adapt and respond as we see new developments in the market. Sorry, Tiago, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, not at all. So last question, again, for actually not the last one, but another one from the same person. Paul, you're the design person. Is the 22 NFT supply equivalent to the 2200 characters in the game? And if so, then it seems like there's very few characters.
Well, yeah, we're not making a game for 2,200 people, but I mean that NFT will give you a character in your world. There'll be other ways to get characters later on. The utility of this particular NFT is it will give you a character and it will give you a uniform, and that uniform for that job will give you advantages. But it will also give you a way to interact with our systems early on as we go forward. It will give you utility before that 3D avatar thing comes online. Short answer there is there's going to be a lot more characters than that. This is just an initial mint for early people.
Okay, perfect. Then S Young asks, since all the users who support and believe in the project at this stage are early adopters, how are we going to reward those early adopters? And if there's rewards for active daily users, AMA listeners, and so forth. And I can take this one since it's quite community specific. So we already do a fair bit of events already. Like we more or less do at least one every week. That's internal and that's kind of like on our Discords. And we also do collaborations with other projects and giveaways and things like that. And if you think about it, that's already a pretty decent amount of value. Like the amount of NFTs that we have given away is quite significant. And also, if you are an early adopter and you have a city pass, for example, then you already have kind of the utility that brings about with that NFT, both for the job avatar and also the future utility that will be announced as we talked about in previous AMAs. And in terms of rewards, for example, for AMA listeners, a lot of projects do that, and we're not saying that we'll never do that, but we really want people to be engaged with the project for its own sake. Like, I get it that incentives are nice, and a lot of projects incentivize everything under the sun by just giving money or NFTs. But to some degree, we do want to fight against that, because at the end of the day, we are a game, and we want people to join the CMA if they want to be curious and learn more about the game development and things like that. And we don't want a bunch of people here that don't even care about what we say just because they want to earn some ETH or some extra NFT or something like that. So yeah, those are the questions that we've had that are kind of like pre-written. There was also a couple of questions that Prince of Darkness has asked, kind of in the stage chat. Prince of Darkness, if you want, you can come up on stage and ask them yourself. But if you can't speak for whatever reason, that's okay as well. And then I'll just read them out loud for you. So if you're interested, just kind of raise your hands. Okay, he says to read it. That's fine. Maybe you can't speak. So I'll just read it out. So he asks, how do you guys plan to market the job avatar mints? Is there going to be any partner platforms? So about the mint, and I'll answer this one, I suppose. About the mint, how are we going to market it? Basically, there's two major areas that we really want to focus on, which are certainly not new for any project of this scope. One is to get people excited and to build hype around the NFTs, and that will be especially the case because of our art. personally, I think our art is goddamn amazing, and we'll share some teasers about it, and that will get people excited, just like it got people excited in the City Pass as well. And also something that we really want to work on as well is work with other projects, especially gaming projects that are already notorious in this space, and they already have some credibility and reputation. And so we'll make collaborations with them, Twitter spaces, giveaways, things of that nature. And then he also asked, actually, he asked several questions here, so I'm just going to read all of them. He asked, when will the first iteration of the game be available to get our hands on? So we already covered that to a large degree, but I'll give it to Paul in case he just wants to kind of answer your question directly.
All right. Well, when will the first version of the game?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, as we were describing before, we don't see this as like a single release date. We see this as an evolving service. So we'll be releasing parts of the system and things you can interact with on a regular basis. We don't want to really talk about a release date for any specific part of that right now. It's ongoing.
Right. Perfect. And then another question. How long will the gap be between the job avatar mint and the game release? What shall we be able to do, until our avatar... Sorry, my brain is completely fried today. I'll read that from the beginning. I should have also had more caffeine. So basically his question is, what's the gap between the job avatar and the game release, and also what can you do with those NFTs until the game is released? And Robin, if you want to tackle this one.
Sure, maybe I'll talk a bit and then Paul can jump in as well. But I mean, I guess with regards to the job avatars specifically, you can probably think of them in terms of their utility. You can think they have like a short term utility, a mid term utility, and long term. So the short term the shorter term is the meta economy that Paul mentioned. So being actually able to send these off on different activities and engage with the economy through these NFTs. On the midterm, there's clothing economies, so actually being able to open up some of these sub-economies that we've talked about and invest into different items for your NFT, for your job avatar. And then on the long term, there's of course being able to actually go into the 3D world and have your job avatar represent you in 3D. So I'm kind of forgetting what the actual question was, but I think like that at least sums up like kind of how we view utility of the job avatar, and also kind of might give you an idea of kind of the roadmap that we would have around those and sort of how we view that. So Paul, maybe there's something you want to elaborate on.
I think you covered most of the bases there. I mean, the salient point, I guess, is the near-term utility for this is we want to be able to provide you with this meta game that you can interact with. So that will be in the not too distant future. Beyond that, I mean, we're very mindful of using these NFTs as a way of providing generally a more involved experience for people who are following the development of the game. But yep, look forward to being able to use these things in a kind of a metagame way in the nearish future.
Awesome. So basically, this is also an open stage now. So if any of you just wants to come on the stage and ask anything, feel free to do so. If you can't speak for whatever reason, just post the question in text. You can do that either in the chat of this stage itself. I'm not sure on mobile, but at least on PC, it's on the upper right corner. Or if you prefer, you can also go to the general chat and just post it there. I saw that Tom posted a question. I'll give you the opportunity to come on stage if you just want to ask us directly. But if you can't speak, then I can just read it directly from the text as well. It's up to you. All right. So I'll just read it out. And Paul, you can answer this one. So Tom asks, will there be an added utility to the city passes itself so that there's a benefit in buying city passes now rather than buying the job avatar NFT when they will be available in April?
So yes, we're not abandoning the notion of the city pass. You don't burn it when you get your job avatar NFT. We hope to include some further utility for that in the future. Again, as I mentioned, it's like as we develop more parts of the system, we're actively looking for ways to kind of have some benefit for holding these things.
I mean, I guess that the super practical way of elaborating on that is right now we're focused on the successful launch of the job avatars, but City Pass utility is still going to be a thing. But we like to underpromise and overdeliver. You know, as I mentioned, we're a lean, agile team. So sometimes it might be that as we see some of the tracks we're working on with regards to the sprawl and the game sort of come to fruition. At that point, it might make sense for us to introduce parts of those as utility for City Pass holders, but we like to leave things a little bit open-ended, so we can assess the development and make decisions accordingly.
Awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. I also see some people answer some people posting questions, but they're like posting in like several channels. So like maybe let's keep everything to the general chat so that it's a bit easier to track of. I just don't want to miss anyone. But I'll answer some that I have here. So like Heydot asks, how does your project leverage blockchain technology to enhance the gaming experience? Paul, do you want to go for that?
Well, we're going to have a fairly comprehensive NFT economy, so players will be able to sort of. There's three general classes of NFTs that we're looking at. One is vehicles, another is homes, another is characters and clothing. So all these things will be markets which people can openly trade in, and sort of purchase upgrades and different things for. In terms of the token, the token's a more long-term plan, but that will also be something that players can actively earn. And with that token, they'll be able to sort of engage in the governance aspect of the game. So they become voters within the game. They have political power from owning that token. Of course, they're absolutely free to sell that token as well. But really, what we want is this system whereby people acquire certain citizenship through owning this token. They acquire the ability to kind of mold their reality within the game in the way that they want. And it's not meant to be kind of like an unsustainable sort of like value extraction sort of thing. It's meant to be a sustainable thing where players can feel engaged with it and feel like they own it. We just want to decentralize agency within the game, if you like.
Perfect. And another question from the same person. Robin, you can answer this one. How does your team plan to scale the project over time? And what is your long-term vision for the platform?
Okay, yeah, thanks. So how do we plan to scale the project over time? So at the moment I mentioned we're quite a lean, agile team. So I think right now what we're doing this year is we're working on multiple fronts. Some of those things Paul announced earlier in the AMA. So the web economy, and the home sale, and some of those things we haven't been so open about. We are working on some stuff to do with the 3D world. We've got some really cool stuff happening on the networking side. So really, this year is about sort of advancing on multiple fronts. And I think as we sort of progress along these multiple fronts, we will sort of double down and scale up around these individual aspects accordingly. So really, it's about sort of 2023 is sort of a year of discovery for us. It's a year of advancing on multiple fronts, and we will scale both the team and our development efforts along some of these fronts as they come to fruition. So we're quite agile our approach. What was the second part of the question again, Tiago?
Just a long-term vision for the platform.
So the long-term vision for the platform. So I mean, as I said, like the Sprawl is it's more of a service than a game. So the roadmap is already ongoing, and when we launch what we deem to be the sort of commercial release, that is really just going to be the beginning of our roadmap. So we anticipate 10 plus years service after that commercial release as well. And so it's kind of sky's the limit really. We can do all sorts of things with brands, with multiple chains, with new systems, and really with just expanding our player base in as many different ways as possible.
Great, perfect. And then another question again from the same person, and I can answer this one, I suppose, and then you guys can feel free to chime in if you want to. How do you plan to attract and retain a large user base, especially in the highly competitive GameFi market? Well, something that I would say, first of all, is that even though it's true that there is a fair bit of Web3 games, first of all, that's still very little if you consider the game industry as a whole. And that's because, again, kind of this whole ecosystem is so new. And so I think especially as the onboarding process, it gets easier. And then also once the market conditions improve again, I do think this is kind of going to explode, and people will look back and definitely don't think that this was highly competitive at all. And also something that I'd like to mention is that, I mean, obviously I'm a little bit biased here, but I do think that our game is very, very unique. And so that's also something to keep in mind when you're trying to consider competition, which is like, if you just see, for example, like a basic shooter game, for example, or like card games, like I'm not saying that they're all copies. Like I'm sure that they have fun features in their own right, but they all fit within kind of like a very specific genre of games. But our game is very unique and very unlike anything else, and so I think that will definitely play to our advantage in terms of attracting new players. Obviously marketing is huge, and this includes both kind of the traditional Web3 marketing that most projects are already employing, and then on top of that there's kind of like heavier marketing that you can do. For example, paid ads is one, although that's a bit tricky with Web3, but it can still be done in some forms. We will definitely do that. We're not doing that a lot right now, just because it's just not the right time for it, and those things definitely need to be strategized in order to kind of optimize the results that you want to get and align them with the roadmap to get the best results possible. And then he also mentioned retention, and it kind of depends on what you mean, but generally speaking, retention in games, if that's what you mean, that's largely has to do with game design. And we have a very, very experienced team that will obviously be on top of that and optimize that to the largest degree possible. And if you mean a bit earlier, kind of like about the NFTs, the biggest thing that we can offer for the best retention is for the NFTs to actually have utility and for you to be able to do something with them. Because if you have NFTs, but you won't be able to use them for a very long time and they're just like sitting in your wallet, then it's hard to retain members that way, even though that sometimes that's unavoidable and projects do have to do that. But as we just announced in this AMA, we are going to have kind of the game and the economy on our website that utilizes those NFTs. So the NFTs will have a use, and they won't just be sitting there, and that will certainly kind of help with the retention. And Robin and Paul, if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, just to reiterate that, GameFi, I guess, has come up that term a couple times, and we're thinking way bigger than GameFi, right? Like we're thinking way bigger than the sort of cage that GameFi currently is and represents. And the fact is that we've been passionate about this idea for a long time, way before GameFi was even a thing. We've been passionate about creating an open world that has an economy for players to interact with, a sustainable economy, and it allows players to govern it, and where players can own their houses and their cars. And really, the reason why we're in the Web3 space is because it enables us to deliver on those fronts so much more in such a more compelling way than ever before. So really, that's kind of how we're approaching it. And of course, like our individual experience stretches back to very well-known franchises. You know, Paul's worked on the Grand Theft Auto series. I've worked on Angry Birds, which is sort of a mobile game, and obviously very, very familiar with scaling through marketing. Angry Birds has surpassed certainly 1 billion downloads, possibly 2 billion downloads. And so we're very familiar with how to scale games, whether it's a mobile game or a AAA console game or a number of different things in between.
Awesome. Paul, I don't know if you want to add something. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, two of the pillars that kind of drive us are emergence and persistence. I mean, we're building this place, and it's meant to have a sense of place, but ultimately it belongs to players. In terms of retention, we think there's not very many spaces players can go where they have that sense of persistence, where they have that sense of building things together. And we really think, communities are like a big sticky thing here. It's like it's people that make these games interesting, right? So if you give players enough tools to kind of work with each other and play with each other, then that in itself is a form of retention. You build up these friendships, these colleagues, if you like, within this game, within this space. So we just want to give players the power to create that space for themselves, and we think that in itself is a powerful retention mechanic. It's just, it's your place. You do with it what you want. You run it how you want.
Right. Awesome. And then there's a question from Tofi, which is one of our most active members, and he's awesome. He asks if there's going to be a snapshot for those that didn't list the City Pass. And maybe, Paul, you can answer this one. And just to clarify, I believe he mentions that, if the City Pass is listed on a marketplace or not, kind of regardless of the job avatar.
Right. Sorry, what's the question here? So, I mean, basically, if you have a City Pass, then you can get a job avatar NFT. Is that
right? It's not quite what he's saying. So what he's saying is if there's going to be a snapshot to kind of track those who listed and those who did it, and so it's just basically a marketplace thing. And I can give kind of my take on this. Like we don't really have any current plans to have that because obviously we want to reward early adopters and people that stay in the project, but you already have that by the utility of the fact that you're holding that NFT. So if you sell it, well, then you lose it. You're just giving it to someone else. But I don't know if you want to add something to that, Paul.
Yeah, it might be. We were asked a question about the chain earlier, and my answer was that we would share more on the chain for the job avatar NFTs in due course, and maybe around that point in time we will also talk about what the process is to getting your job avatar NFT, and how that kind of relates to the City Pass. So perhaps this is something we will elaborate on as part of that announcement. But really, for us, it's just we're mostly thinking just about the most elegant way for City Pass holders to get their job avatar NFTs. That's the main priority at the moment.
Right. So, and some other questions. Some are kind of things that were already touched on. I'm guessing from people that kind of arrived a bit late to the AMA, so we won't give too much details, just so we don't bore people that have been here from the beginning. But someone asked, when are the job avatar NFTs will be? When's the mint going to be? That's going to be in April. We haven't decided on a date yet, but we will announce that soon. They asked, the same person, CryptoPolls, also asked about funding. And again, just to shortly kind of recap what Robin has already said, because this is already a question that has been asked here. We're backed by Play Ventures and also with some extra angel investors, and so we don't need any funding from the community. And also, there's going to be additional funding, but that's not something that we can give details about right now. Then S Young asks, will there be some sort of role and progress system on Discord? And I'll answer that one. So there's already a role in the progress system, although we don't give it too much emphasis, and that is on purpose because we don't want to make it seem like in order to have a benefit that you just need to grind through it. And I've been in this space for quite a long time, and unfortunately, this is quite a common way to kind of a system to implement in community development. But from my experience, it just doesn't work very well. Like, you just attract people that don't care about the project at all, and then because the activity is rewarded, it's just like meaningless activity. Like, even sometimes people just use bots, but even if it's not bots, then people just type random stuff. However, there is already a role in progress system, although it is fairly conservative, and there's a ranking system. And then if you are able to progress towards a higher rank, then you're able to have access to a special Discord, which is called the Elite Chat. So, most of you, unless you've been here kind of from the beginning, you'll probably not be able to see it because only a few people are. And so if you're active on Discord, you'll eventually be able to see it as you were in those ranks. And in that channel, we haven't been using it very much, but we'll definitely start using it more, especially as we get closer to the job avatar drop. And that's mostly to share kind of peaks of what's happening behind the scenes before everyone else. And so I think that's truly what a good reward system is. That isn't just purely monetary in value, where people don't actually care about the game. So, like, if you really think that the Sprawl is awesome and you just want to be involved as much as possible, then you'll for sure want to see kind of what we're working on before everyone else sees it, and also give feedback, which obviously we're always very receptive for it. So that's it. Now let me just check if there's some other questions. Oh yeah, so there's another question also from the same person, S Young. And he mentions, well, not so much a question, but just pointing out that the roadmap isn't updated, and it might be kind of a bit misleading for people that are reading it. And that is true. We do plan to update the roadmap fairly soon, and we apologize that it just hasn't been super updated, but we've just been super busy in developing the future job avatar mints. But yeah, it will be updated for sure. Now, let me just check if there's some more questions, because I have to check in every single channel in existence. General. Okay, I think I've covered all the questions. Kai is letting me know that I forgot to mention that there's a platinum channel as well, in addition to the elite chat. So if you hold a platinum NFT, then you can go to the NFT verification. It has to be number 2 because just doesn't work with the current system that we have for the main one. But it's pretty simple. You just go to the channel, you verify your wallet, and then you'll be able to have access to it. So that's another just exclusive channel that perhaps I should have mentioned. But that's all the questions that we have had. If any of you wants to hop on stage and ask a question, then feel free to do so. And we're just gonna maybe just wait like a minute or so, see if anyone wants to come up. And while we wait, Robin, it's your responsibility as the CEO to just crack a joke.
Okay, just thinking of the most appropriate joke for this AMA, something that is ideally very family friendly. Yeah, can't think of anything, unfortunately. I don't know, what do you call a
Quick, open ChatGPT.
what do you call a girl with a lily on her head? Ruth. Or I guess you could call her Lily, actually. Actually, no, shit. I mean, what do you call a girl with a tile on her head? Ruth. What do you call a girl with a leaf on her head? Lily. There we go.
Dude.
It's not my job to tell jokes.
No. I'm going to take this moment to thank everybody who sent questions in. Thank you very much. And I hope we answered your questions.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. So there's actually another text question, and this will be the last one. So Tony P asks, will there be collab giveaways with other projects? And of course there will. Those are being planned right now, and until the job avatar mints, there's going to be loads of them. So just keep your eye out on the announcements. We'll always announce those, and you can participate in them. So yeah, that's it. We really appreciate everyone for coming. If you have more questions later, if something pops to mind, always feel free to post them to the question channel, and I'll get to them. And as always, just keep an eye on the announcements. This is March and April is going to be very busy and very exciting for the Sprawl. So just keep an eye out, and thank you everyone. Just have a wonderful day and week.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day and week. And once again, I'd like to apologize for those jokes. It's really, really rubbish. Have a great day.
That's why we make games and not do comedy. But yes, thank you very much, everybody. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.